The night tasted like iron and rain. Lark Bennett rowed until Hallow Creek thinned to a bruise on the horizon. Wind hissed. Sage bent and rose. She did not turn back. Her mare shivered under the last of the storm. Lark stroked the neck. Easy. Almost home. But home was only a word now, a shuttered house. A gate that creaked to no one. The bank held the deed. A stranger held the keys. She saw the cabin light at the dry wash. One lantern, a steady gold. Not hers. A man on her land. They called it auction. He called it luck. She called it theft with a stamp. She tethered her horse in the cottonwoods, steps soft, breath even. Her father had taught her that much before the fever took him. Move like wind through tall grass. Be seen only when you choose. On the porch she heard boots scrape the boards, slow, measured. Lark cooled her palm on the grip of her revolver. She would not shoot. Not yet. The door opened before she could knock. A tall figure filled the frame. Broad shoulders, a pale scar nicked his jaw. Rain slicked his hair back. His eyes were midnight, watchful, calm. "You're on private ground, miss," he said. "So am I," she said. "This ground knows my name." He did not move. The lantern painted his throat and the open line of his shirt. He smelled like smoke and wet cedar. He looked like trouble that had learned patience. "Cole Maddox," he said, "owner of the Elk Spur. Bought clean last month." Lark kept her chin level. "Lark Bennett. My father built this cabin. I did not sell it to you." "Not to me," he said. "To the bank. To time." Cold anger climbed her spine. "Let me in," she said. "A minute." He stepped back. The room smelled of coffee and rain on ash. A fire hummed in the hearth. 2 mugs sat on the table, one half full, one waiting. He held out the empty one. "Storm's got teeth," he said. "No sense bleeding in it." She took the mug. Her hand brushed his. Heat leaped up her arm like a fuse. She saw it strike him too in the quiet stall of his breath. "You knew whose land this was," she said. "I knew it was empty," he said. "Empty land makes room for wolves. And what are you? A man who keeps his word. To whom? To the dead. To the living who still have to make it through winter." Wind lifted the latch. Lark hung her hat on the peg. Water tapped the floor. "My father left more than debt," she said. "Stock. A claim in Sage Hollow. His brand. You have the herd. Not enough to bargain with bankers." He studied her then. Not as an intruder, but as someone who might return. "You came to take it back," he said. "I came to see what you took." The kettle sang. Steam rose. Coffee tasted like a promise before dawn. Strength came back into her chest. Anger cooled into care. "You ride alone," he said. "Most days, that kind gets noticed." "By who?" "Men who like easy marks. Lawmen with questions." "Me?" She looked at his hands, scarred. "Clean, hands that built and broke. I am not easy," she said. "I see that." He turned the lantern down. The cabin softened to firelight. Rain slowed and then stopped. He sat. She took the stool. There was a poster in town, she said. Your name on it. Wanted for the payroll out of Juniper Pass. He did not flinch. Lies travel fast. So you did not take it. If I had, he said, I would not light a lamp on a stolen ranch. She wanted to believe him. She did not. Hoofbeats cut the quiet. More than one, coming from the South Trail. Cole stood in the same breath that Lark reached for her gun. Eyes met. A quick accord. His head tilted to the back door. Basement hatch, he said. Now. This is my house, she whispered. It is also my fight, he said. We can share it if you listen. She moved. The hatch lifted with a soft groan. Cold earth air rose. He handed her a rifle. The wood was worn smooth where a cheek had rested many times. Trust is a risky horse, she thought, yet here she was with a saddle in her hands. Outside, the riders slid to a stop. Voices. Lark recognized one. Reed Callahan, foreman to Sheriff Asa Pike. "Open up," a voice called. "Sheriff's business." "If they see you here," Cole whispered, "they will have the story they want. You do not want that story." She swallowed. The cellar breathed against her lips. Damp rock, old apples, dust. She could also feel him near, warm as the fire behind him. "Come back," she said, eyes on his. Not a command, a promise to hold the next breath together. He nodded once. He shut the hatch. His boots crossed the floor at an easy pace. Lark crouched in the dark and counted his steps like prayer. The front door opened. Reed's voice rolled in. Chairs scraped. A boot heel thunked. A gun clicked. She pictured Cole's face, calm as a winter lake, while the men circled him. The cellar held her close. She pressed her palm to the earth wall and felt the pulse of the land, her land. A thought rose, certain and quiet. Some things do not stay stolen. Some things remember their names. Above her, Reed laughed. It slid down the stairs like a knife. Then he said a thing that made Lark lift her head and forget to breathe. He said her name. If this story has warmed a quiet corner of your heart, stay close. The night still holds more to tell. Let your presence be known. Your voice keeps this fire burning for the next chapter. The sound of her name in Reed Callahan's mouth felt like dirt tossed on a grave. Lark froze in the cellar's breathless dark. Above her, chairs creaked, boots shifted. A man cleared his throat. "She's trouble," Reed said. "Saw her horse tied down by the cottonwoods. She's back for what ain't hers." Cole's voice came, slow as whiskey poured at midnight. "Didn't see no one ride through," he said. "Just me, the rain, and a long road from nowhere." "You always got a long road behind you, Maddox." Reed's laugh was short. "Sheriff thinks you've been hiding stolen payroll." "We came to look." "Then look," Cole said. The room shifted with the sound of drawers pulled, crates opened, boots grinding ash. Lark pressed her ear to the hatch. The men's movements were heavy, careless. Cole's were not. "Funny thing," Reed said. "Bennett girls still wanted for questioning over the fire at the bank. Folks say she's got a temper." "Folks say a lot," Cole said. "You'd know. You were one of 'em once." A pause. Then Reed's voice again, softer, crueler. "She ruins men. Always did." Lark's hand tightened on the rifle. The old wood sighed beneath her grip. She wanted to burst from the cellar, shout him down, tell him the fire was not her doing, that her father's debts had burned first, not his papers. but the quiet in Cole's answer stopped her. "She's not ruined yet," he said. "And neither am I." Reed snorted. "You talk like you know her." Cole's chair scraped. "Maybe I do." There was a silence after that. Thick, waiting, heavy as smoke. Then Reed spit, muttered something about wasted time, and the boots moved toward the door. When the latch clicked shut, Lark counted 10 breaths before lifting the hatch. Cole stood by the fire, eyes on the door, hand still on the Colt at his hip. "Gone," he said, "for now." Lark climbed up, her knees weak from stillness and fury. "You lied for me." "I told what kept you breathing." She set the rifle on the table. "They'll be back. Then we'll be ready." She looked at him. The flicker of the fire caught the scar on his jaw, turned it into something almost tender. "Why help me?" "Because I've done enough harm to know what it looks like," he said. "And because Reed Callahan don't deserve to say your name like that." Her throat tightened. "You don't even know me." "Maybe I don't need to." The wind moaned outside. She moved closer to the fire, felt its warmth crawl into her bones. Cole poured coffee into the same mug she'd used before. "Cold nights make people foolish," he said, "or honest." Their eyes met. His softened, as if he'd found something in her he didn't expect. "I'll leave at first light," she said. "You won't make it far," he replied. "The sheriff's men will be watching the road. If they find you here alone, they'll decide you burned more than ledgers." "So what do you suggest?" He hesitated. "Ride with me. South Ridge. There's an old silver mine. Empty, quiet. We'll wait till the dust settles." Her laugh came low. "You think I'll trust an outlaw?" He shrugged. "You already hid in one's cellar." That drew a small smile from her despite herself. "You're impossible." "So I've been told." Outside the rain stopped. The air turned sharp and clean. The fire popped. The scent of wet sage drifted through the window cracks. Lark felt the first edge of safety she'd known in months, and it terrified her. Cole gathered his coat, checked the rifle slung by the door. "Get some rest," he said. "We leave before sunrise." She nodded, but didn't move. The night hummed. The room breathed with them. When he finally turned toward the door, she spoke. "Cole." He looked back. "If you lie to me," she said softly, "I'll shoot you before dawn." His mouth curved in a slow, tired grin. "Fair enough." The door closed behind him. Silence returned, gentle, like a hand laid over a wound. Lark stood by the fire, her reflection flickering in the window pane, and whispered to the dark, "What am I doing?" The flames answered in low crackles. She didn't know yet that her question was already his. If this story has stirred something quiet inside you, stay near. The road south waits in the pale light of dawn, and their hearts are not done speaking. Dawn came thin and grey, dragging mist across the low hills. Lark saddled her mare in silence while Cole checked his gear. The world smelled of wet earth and smoke, like a day that had seen too much truth. They rode before the sun breached the ridge. Hooves muffled in the mud. The wind carried no voices, only the memory of rain. Lark kept her gaze ahead, but she felt Cole's presence beside her like a quiet hum. He did not speak until the valley opened into pale light. "You ride clean," he said. "My father taught me to stay alive." "He must have been a good teacher." "He was," she said. Until the fever took him and the bank took everything else. Cole nodded. Banks take more than they lend. I've learned that too. She turned her head. You mean Juniper Pass? He smiled without humor. That's the one they pinned on me. I didn't steal their gold. I only took back what they stole from the miners, but the law don't much care for the shape of truth. They crossed a dry creek bed. The wind lifted the edge of his coat, showing the revolver at his side, worn and well-loved. She tried not to look, but her eyes found it anyway, the way his hand rested easy, not in threat, but in readiness. You could have run farther, she said. Every man runs in circles sooner or later. Then why come here? Because this land remembers mercy, he said quietly, and I wanted to see if I still had any left. They climbed a narrow path that wound through sandstone cliffs. The sun rose behind them, painting the rocks gold. Cole's horse stumbled on a loose stone. Lark reached out instinctively, her hand brushing his arm to steady him. It was only a second, but the contact burned like a truth spoken too soon. He looked at her, eyes dark under the brim of his hat. Careful, he murmured. Of the road? Of what you're starting? Lark pulled her hand back, the pulse in her wrist wild. Don't flatter yourself. His grin was faint, worn. Wasn't talking about me. They rode on. The path curved into a narrow ravine. At the far end, the mouth of an old silver mine yawned open, black, hollow, waiting. Cole dismounted first, leading his horse to a patch of brush. This will do, he said. No one comes here since the vein died. She followed, tying her mare beside his. The mine smelled of stone and cold water. She stepped inside, boots echoing faintly. It's colder than I thought. Good, he said. Cold keeps the mind sharp. He spread his coat on the ground near the entrance and started a small fire from a bundle of dry twigs he carried. Sparks caught, rising into the shadows. The glow painted his face softer than the stories she'd heard. Do you ever stop running? She asked. When the right person tells me to, he said. She looked away. I'm not the right person. You could be, he said, almost to himself. The heat of the fire spread slowly. Lark sat with her knees drawn up, watching him through the light. His quiet steadiness unsettled her more than his danger. There was something in him she recognized, someone who'd lost enough to know the cost of gentleness. Cole, she said finally, if they catch you, what then? He tossed another twig into the flames. Then I hang for something I didn't do. And if they catch me? He met her eyes. Then I won't let them. The way he said it left no room for argument. It wasn't a promise of heroics. It was a quiet vow from a man who had already made his peace with risk. Outside, thunder grumbled far off. Another storm building. Lark leaned her head against the rock wall, exhaustion rolling through her bones. You should rest, he said. I'll keep watch. Don't you ever sleep? Not when someone else needs to. Her breath caught. She wanted to thank him, but words felt too thin for what pressed between them. Instead, she closed her eyes. The firelight played across her face. Cole watched her a long moment. The rise and fall of her breath softened something he thought long buried. He turned his gaze to the darkness beyond the mine's mouth, but his thoughts stayed on the woman beside the fire, on the stubborn strength in her silence, and the way his name had sounded in her mouth the night before. The wind outside shifted, carrying the scent of coming rain and something else. Hoofbeats, faint but growing. Cole rose without a sound, hand on his gun. He stepped to the entrance, eyes narrowing toward the ridge. Riders. 2, maybe 3. The sheriff's men hadn't given up. He looked back at Lark, still asleep by the fire. For a heartbeat, he wanted to wake her gently. Instead, he whispered, voice low but steady, "Lark, it's time." If this story has sparked a quiet ache in your chest, stay close. The storm is not done speaking, and hearts like theirs don't hide forever under stone. Cole's whisper pulled her from a half-dream. Lark opened her eyes to the thin firelight flickering over the rock walls and his silhouette at the mine's mouth, tense, silent, carved against dawn's first grey. "What is it?" she murmured. "Riders," he said. 3, maybe 4, coming from the north ridge." Her pulse kicked. She rose fast, brushing dust from her coat. "Reed? Could be. Could also be men who don't care which bounty they take first." He stamped the fire out with one slow press of his boot, leaving only a curl of smoke. "We'll move deeper in," he said. Lark gathered her satchel. "If they track the horses—" "They won't. I turned them loose. They'll circle back once the noise passes." "You thought of everything," she said. He didn't answer. His hand brushed her arm, guiding her into the dark tunnel. The air grew colder with each step. Their breaths echoed soft and steady. A faint trickle of water dripped from the ceiling. Lark's fingers grazed the rock, slick and damp. The black swallowed the world behind them. "You sure they won't follow us in?" she whispered. "They might," he said, "but I know these tunnels. My father mined silver here when I was a boy, before the company bled the vein dry and left him under it." She looked up at him in the dark, the memory shadowing his voice. "That's why you hate the banks." "That's why I stopped asking for fairness," he said. The sound of the riders grew closer, boots striking stone, reins snapping, voices low but clear. They'd found the entrance. Cole drew his revolver. "Stay behind me." Lark's voice was steady now, quiet steel. "I can shoot." "I don't doubt it," he said, "but I aim cleaner." Light flared near the cave mouth, torchlight. Shadows moved against the walls. One of the men called out, "Maddox! Sheriff Pike says come easy, and we'll let the girl walk free." Cole's jaw tightened. He looked back at Lark. "You hear that? They think you're hiding me. They're not wrong." The first gunshot cracked the silence. Rock splintered beside her head. Cole shoved her down behind a boulder, firing once, twice, controlled, calm. One of the torches fell. The others scattered. The echoes rolled down the tunnels like thunder. Smoke and dust filled the air. Lark coughed, pressing her sleeve to her mouth. "We can't stay here," he nodded. "There's another exit through the east shaft. Old miner's path. Narrow, but it'll do." They moved fast, bent low, guided by the fading light behind them. The tunnel veered left, then down. The air grew thin. Lark's shoulder brushed his arm. Every step felt balanced between trust and terror. Behind them, voices cursed, boots scraped, the chase closing in. Cole stopped at a split in the rock. "Right side," he said. "You'll see daylight in 50 paces. Go." She shook her head. "Not without you." "Go, Lark." "I said no." He exhaled once, sharp, like a man remembering what it costs to argue with courage. "Then stay close." They took the right passage together. It narrowed to a crawl, stone biting their palms. Finally, light spilled ahead, soft, clean daylight cutting through the slit of an opening. Cole pushed a fallen beam aside, and they stumbled into the open. Morning stretched before them, wild grass, distant buttes, a sky washed clean by rain. Lark turned, breathless. "We made it." "Not yet." He looked toward the ridge. Tiny dust clouds rose, more riders. Sheriff Pike had sent more than a handful. "They're herding us east," he said, "toward Dry Mesa." "What's there?" "Nothing but open ground." Lark's throat burned with anger. "They mean to drive us where there's no cover. Then we make our own." He led her toward a line of low rocks overlooking the basin. They crouched there, hidden from sight. Cole checked his ammo, 2 bullets left. He handed her a spare revolver. "You trust me with that?" she asked. He met her eyes. "I trust you more than luck." The wind picked up. The first riders appeared in the distance, shapes against the morning light. Lark swallowed hard. "If they take you, they won't. But if they do—" He turned to her, voice rough, quiet. "Then you ride south and don't look back. Find the river. Follow it to the trading post at White Spur. There's a woman there named Mara Holt. Tell her I kept my word." She searched his face. "And what word is that?" He didn't answer. His hand brushed hers briefly, a warmth that steadied more than any weapon. The riders drew nearer. Cole smiled, slow, sad, certain. "Ready?" Lark nodded. "Always." They rose together as the first shot cracked the still air. If this story has stirred something in your chest, keep listening. The sun is climbing, but the night in their hearts is far from done. The first bullet whined past Lark's ear and buried itself in the stone behind her. Dust exploded, stinging her cheek. She ducked low, heart hammering. Cole fired once, the sound sharp and final. One rider peeled from his saddle and hit the dirt. "2 left," he muttered. The wind whipped around them, carrying the acrid bite of gunpowder. The other riders spread out in a crescent, trying to circle their position. Lark caught the gleam of badges through the dust. Sheriff Pike's men, no doubt. "Cole!" she hissed. "We can't hold here." "Then we move," he said, eyes scanning the ridge. "There's a ravine 1/2 mile south. If we reach it, they'll lose our trail." "You're out of bullets." "Then you'll cover me." He smiled, a quick, reckless flash, and broke from cover. Lark cursed softly and followed, firing once to scatter the riders. The shot cracked the silence, echoing through the open plain. They ran. The ground sloped downward, loose shale sliding under their boots. The horses behind them screamed and thundered closer. Cole turned, grabbed her arm, and pulled her into a dry wash hidden by sage. They dropped low, breathing hard. "Stay down," he said. "I'm not hiding while you get killed." He gave her a look that silenced her. "You're not the only one with something left to lose." The riders slowed, searching the broken ground. One dismounted, scanning for tracks. Cole waited until the man stepped within 20 paces. Then he rose from behind the sage, silent as a shadow, and struck. The man went down without a sound. Cole caught his rifle before it hit the dirt. Lark stared. "You didn't—" "Alive," Cole said. "For now." He tossed her the rifle. "You watch the ridge." She nodded, fingers tight on the stock. He crouched beside her again, eyes scanning the horizon. For a few seconds, all she could hear was their breathing, two rhythms beating against the same wind. "You've done this before," she said. "Too many times. And you still think you can outlast them?" He looked at her, a quiet smile beneath the grit. "I'm not trying to outlast them, Lark. I'm trying to outlast myself." Something in his tone, half weary, half raw, cut through her anger. She looked away. "You don't owe me this fight." "Maybe not," he said, "but I owe you a chance to see another sunrise." Silence fell again. In the distance the riders regrouped, circling wide. Cole adjusted the rifle sight, his movements smooth, practiced. Lark watched the lines of his face, scarred, steady, unafraid. "You could have left me," she whispered. He didn't look up. "I thought about it." "Why didn't you?" "Because something in your eyes said you wouldn't forgive me if I did." Her breath caught. "You read eyes now?" "Yours are easy." The words landed soft but heavy. Lark's throat tightened. She wanted to say something sharp, something that would cut the tension, but the truth rose instead, uninvited, undeniable. "Maybe you shouldn't care," she said. He met her gaze then, the distance between them shrinking like a drawn bow. "Maybe I can't help it." A gust of wind passed, carrying the smell of sage and smoke. The riders were closer now, 4 of them, spread across the basin. Cole handed her the rifle. "Time to run again," he said. "Where?" "Downriver. There's a canyon ahead. We can lose them in the rocks." They moved quickly, crouching low through the brush. The sun broke through the clouds, bright and unforgiving. Each step felt louder than thunder. They reached the edge of the canyon just as a shout rang out behind them. Cole turned, fired once more. One rider fell, another shouted his name. Lark grabbed his sleeve. "We have to go!" They slid down a narrow slope into the canyon's shadows. The air cooled instantly, the world narrowing to echo and heartbeat. Cole found a small overhang and pulled her beneath it. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them hummed, wild, charged, fragile. Lark pressed her back to the stone, trying to calm her breath. Cole crouched in front of her, eyes scanning the canyon rim above. "They'll keep coming," she said. "I know." "Then why aren't we still running?" "Because you're shaking," he said softly, "and I won't let you fall." She stared at him, caught between anger and something far more dangerous. His hand rose, slow, steady, resting on her arm, not to restrain, but to ground. "I'm fine," she whispered. "I know," he said, "but let me believe you're not." The words sank into her chest like warmth after frost. Outside, the riders' voices faded into the distance. For the first time in days, there was stillness. Only the quiet rush of wind through the canyon walls. Lark's head fell back against the stone. "What now?" "We wait till night," he said. "Then we move south." She nodded, eyes half closed. "You really think we'll make it?" He smiled, faint and tired. "If we don't, I'll die trying beside the only woman who ever made me forget what I was running from." Lark turned her face toward him, her heartbeat a whisper in the silence. And for the first time since she'd met him, she didn't know whether she was afraid or alive. If this story has found a heartbeat inside you, Stay close. The night ahead carries fire, truth, and the slow burn of something neither of them can outrun. The canyon fell into silence as the sun slid behind the ridge. The last light clung to the stone like a memory that refused to fade. Lark sat by the cold wall, knees drawn up, watching Cole trace the horizon with his eyes. He hadn't spoken for an hour. He didn't need to. His quiet said more than most men's shouting ever could. When the first stars appeared, he finally moved. "We ride when the moon clears the ridge," he said. "Too dark now, too easy to miss your footing and end up bones at the bottom." She nodded. The canyon air was sharp, full of dust and the faint smell of sage. Her hands were still trembling from the run. She hid them in her coat. Cole crouched by the stream that cut through the rock and filled his canteen. "You hungry?" "I forgot what hungry feels like." He handed her a piece of dried jerky. "Start remembering." The taste was tough, salty. It felt human. She smiled faintly. "You always this gentle with fugitives?" "I don't get many worth saving," he said. Something warm pressed against her ribs then, something she didn't want to name. "Why are you doing this, Cole?" He leaned back on one knee, looking at the stars instead of her. "Because I know what it's like to wake every morning knowing the world's already judged you." "You don't seem the kind to care what the world thinks." "I don't," he said. "But sometimes it matters who believes you." She studied him for a long moment. "You mean me?" "Maybe." The word hung between them, fragile as breath. The air around the fire shifted. She watched the light move across his jaw, the slow rhythm of his chest. Her heart began to echo that rhythm, steady and low. He looked at her, then. Not the way a man looks at danger, but the way a man looks at something he thought he'd never find again. "You should rest," he said softly. "We've got hard ground ahead." "I can't," she whispered. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them riding." He moved closer, the warmth of his body a quiet shelter. "They won't touch you." "You can't promise that." "I just did." She turned toward him, their faces inches apart. The wind slipped between them, cool and sweet. She saw the tired kindness in his eyes, the fight in the set of his jaw. Every part of him was contradiction, danger and refuge, shadow and light. "You're a strange kind of outlaw," she said. "And you're a strange kind of thief," he murmured. "I never stole anything." "Not true." His voice dipped lower. "You're stealing my peace." Her breath caught. The truth in it was too close. She should have looked away, but she didn't. The space between them broke like a fevered prayer. His hand found her cheek, rough palm, careful touch. Lark didn't move, didn't want to. The kiss wasn't wild. It was slow, like the world had been holding its breath too long. Heat tangled with the cool of the night, the sound of the wind folding into the sound of them. It was the kind of touch that promised safety and sin all at once. When they broke apart, neither spoke. The fire crackled once, then fell still. Cole brushed his thumb along her jaw. "You sure about this?" "No," she said, "but I'm sure I don't want to stop." He smiled, small and broken. "Then we don't stop." Time dissolved into the sound of wind and heartbeat, the rhythm of skin against silence. Every touch carried both hunger and forgiveness. The canyon held its breath. The stars kept their secrets. Later, when the fire had burned down to embers, Lark lay with her head on his shoulder, listening to his breathing. For the first time since her father's death, she felt the weight inside her chest ease, if only for a heartbeat. "Cole," she whispered. "Yeah? If we live through this, what then?" He thought for a long time. "Then maybe we stop running. You think we can?" "Maybe not. But maybe we'll find a place that don't make us try so hard." She smiled in the dark. "That sounds almost like peace." "It sounds like you," he said. The wind outside changed, sudden and cold. A hawk cried somewhere high above the cliffs. Cole lifted his head, every muscle alert again. "What is it?" she asked. "Trouble," he said quietly. "It's coming back." If this story has warmed a quiet corner of your heart, stay near. The storm they thought they outran is finding its way through the canyon, and dawn carries more than light. The wind came first, sharp, full of grit and warning. Cole rose, pulling his shirt over his shoulders, scanning the rim of the canyon. The moonlight had gone silver-white, bright enough to betray movement. "What do you see?" Lark asked, her voice still rough from sleep and memory. "Tracks," he said. "Fresh. Someone's been here since we closed our eyes." She sat up fast, reaching for her coat. "Reed? Could be. Or men worse than him." Cole moved to the horses tethered near the brush. His fingers brushed over the reins, cut clean. He swore softly under his breath. "They found us," he said, "and they want us scared." Lark's jaw tightened. "Then they'll have to try harder." He turned to her then, a faint flicker of pride cutting through the tension. "You ever stop surprising me?" "I don't plan to." He slung his rifle over his shoulder and offered his hand. "We ride now. There's a pass west. Old smugglers used it to run whiskey into New Mexico. If we make it through before dawn, they'll lose the trail." She took his hand, rising. "Oh, and if we don't?" "Then we fight." The horses snorted nervously as they mounted. The canyon floor glowed under the moon, ghost pale. Cole took the lead, guiding them through narrow curves of stone that looked like frozen waves. Lark followed close, heart beating to the rhythm of hooves and wind. Half a mile in, the trail opened into a plateau. The air smelled faintly of gun oil. Cole raised a hand, stopping her. "Too quiet," he said. Then came the echo, metal against rock. A single bullet struck the wall beside her head. "Down!" he barked. They dropped behind a boulder as more shots lit the night. Sparks flashed off the stone. Lark fired back once, her shot answering like thunder in the hollow dark. Cole moved with steady precision, no panic, no waste. 2 shots, 2 riders fell, but the third stayed hidden, waiting for the sound of reload. Then a voice cut through the silence. "Well, ain't this poetic?" Reed Callahan drawled. 2 ghosts from the same grave. Lark froze. She knew that voice like a wound. "Reed," she said, "you never did know when to quit." He laughed, close enough for the sound to crawl over her skin. "You should have stayed gone, Lark. Now the sheriff gets both of you. Alive or not, it's all the same to him." Cole's jaw tightened. "You want me, Reed? Come take me yourself." "Oh, I plan to. But first, I think I'll see if the lady remembers how to beg." The rage that rose in Lark was cold, clean, precise. She lifted her revolver over the rock and fired once. Reed's hat flew from his head. "I remember how to aim," she said. Cole almost smiled. "Remind me never to cross you." The exchange of fire broke loose again. Stone, smoke, shouts. The canyon filled with echoes of old sins. Cole ducked, reloaded, and whispered, "Cover me." She did. Her shots pinned the others long enough for him to slip from cover, circling wide through the shadows. The fight burned quick. When the last echo faded, the air held only the sound of wind and the thud of Reed's boots retreating into the dark. Cole returned, a shadow against the pale rock. "He's gone," he said. "For now." Lark's hands trembled, not from fear, but from the sharp edge of everything she'd been holding back. She turned away, breathing hard. Cole came closer, setting his hand on her shoulder. "You did good." She shook her head. "I almost shot you." "You didn't." Her breath hitched. "You could have died because of me." He looked at her, quiet and certain. "I could have lived worse without you." The words undid her. She turned to face him, anger and relief breaking in her chest. "You talk like that, and I start to believe there's something waiting past all this dust." He smiled, small and tired. "Maybe there is." The night wind shifted again, softer now, smelling of rain that hadn't yet fallen. She reached up, fingers brushing his collar, the edge of his throat. He leaned in, not in hunger this time, but in something that felt dangerously close to peace. Their foreheads touched. For a long moment, the world was just breath and heartbeat, nothing else. "We'll keep moving," he said finally. "One more night, one more dawn. And after that? We see what's left worth keeping." Lark nodded. "Then let's make sure there's something left to see. If this story has set something steady and wild in your heart, stay near. The road west still calls, and the light that waits there will test everything they've begun to believe." The next morning broke soft and cold, the kind of dawn that didn't promise peace, only another day to fight for it. Lark and Cole rode west, following a crooked trail that bled into the horizon. The land rolled wide and empty, dotted with dry brush and crows picking at yesterday's dust. Neither spoke for a long time. Their silence wasn't awkward. It was armor. Words had weight, and both of them had learned not to waste what they couldn't take back. By mid-morning, the light burned bright enough to make the world shimmer. Cole pulled up near an old windmill, its blades creaking in the wind. "We'll water the horses here," he said. Lark dismounted, her boots sinking into the soft dirt. "You think Reed's still coming?" "He'll follow until he finds what he wants," Cole said. "Men like him don't stop till they break something that used to shine." Lark knelt by the trough, letting her reflection ripple in the muddy water. "Then let him come. I'm tired of running." Cole studied her. "That sounds like a woman planning to die." She looked up sharply. "That sounds like a man who doesn't know when a woman's done being hunted." A smile ghosted at the corner of his mouth. "Fair enough." He reached into his saddlebag and drew out a folded piece of paper. Weathered, torn. He held it out. "You should know what I've been carrying." She hesitated, then took it. It was a wanted poster. Cole Maddox. Theft, armed resistance, reward. $2,000, dead or alive. But the edges were stained dark, water-warped and old. "This is months out of date," she said. Years, he answered. The sheriff doesn't care. It keeps his men busy. You could have run south, crossed into Mexico. He shook his head. Did that once. Found out a man can't cross a border he's still carrying inside. She folded the paper carefully and handed it back. So what now? Now, he said, we ride to the spur. The what? An old trading post near the canyon pass. Mara Holt runs it. She's got friends who don't ask questions, and she owes me a favor. Lark studied his face. What kind of favor? The kind that comes from saving her boy when he was half dead from whiskey and lawmen. Sounds like you've been collecting ghosts for a while. He smiled without warmth. We all do. They mounted again, the trail narrowing between scrub hills. The air thickened with the promise of another storm. Lark's mind wandered to the firelight the night before, to the way his hand had felt against her skin, rough, reverent. She broke the silence first. You ever think about what comes after this? Cole's voice was quiet. Every day. And I stop before I see the end. That's not much of a plan. It's the only one that's kept me alive. They crested a rise, and below them the land fell into a small valley. In the distance stood a weathered building, a saloon half swallowed by dust, its roof patched with tin and prayer. The spur, Cole said. It looked abandoned, but as they drew closer, a figure stepped out onto the porch. A woman with grey-streaked hair and eyes sharp as iron nails. She wore a revolver on her hip and an apron over her skirt. Cole Maddox, she called. I'll be damned. Thought you'd hung by now. Not for lack of trying, he said, dismounting. Mara, this is Lark Bennett. The woman's gaze swept over Lark, assessing, curious. The Bennett girl. Heard talk of you, the one who burned down her own bank. Lark stiffened, but Cole's voice cut in, low and calm. Talk's wrong, as usual. Mara snorted. Ain't it always? She pushed the door open. Come in before someone with too much curiosity sees you. Inside, the saloon smelled of whiskey, soap, and quiet survival. Mara poured coffee into tin cups and set them down. You've got that hunted look again, Cole. Who's after you this time? Sheriff Pike, he said, and Reed Callahan. Mara whistled. That snake still breathing? Barely, Cole said. Lark leaned forward. You can help us? Mara's eyes softened. I can give you a room for the night, maybe a head start by dawn. But if Pike's coming, this place won't stay quiet long. We just need a few hours, Cole said. Mara nodded, then looked at Lark. You trust him, girl? Lark hesitated, then said, Enough to run beside him. Mara smiled. Then maybe you'll live. They ate in silence after that. Outside, thunder rolled over the hills, close enough to shake the walls. Cole glanced toward the window. He's out there, he said. I can feel it. Mara gripped his arm. If you're going to finish it, do it clean. Don't let him come here and spill blood on my floor. Lark's pulse quickened. Cole, don't! But his eyes were already far away, dark and still. Some debts don't wait for daylight, he said. He rose, checked his revolver, and turned to her. Lock the door behind me. Cole? He stopped, looked back. If I'm not back before dawn, you ride south. Don't stop. Don't say that. He smiled, faint and tired. I just want you to know what to do if the world forgets me again." Then he stepped out into the storm. If this story has touched a quiet place in your heart, stay close. The night's not done, and every storm has one truth waiting in its rain. The door shut behind him, leaving a silence too heavy to breathe through. Rain started soft, tapping the roof like the memory of tears Lark hadn't let herself cry. She stood for a long time, hand on the latch, staring at the dark where Cole had gone. Mara Holt crossed her arms, watching from the bar. "You can't chase him, girl. Not tonight." Lark turned. "You think I'm going to sit here while he walks into a bullet?" Mara poured herself a drink. "If you follow, you'll give him something else to die protecting." Lark's jaw tightened. "He doesn't get to decide that." The older woman studied her a moment, then nodded once. "You've got the same fire your father had. It'll either save you or burn the world around you clean. Saddle's out back. Take the bay." Lark didn't waste another breath. She pulled her coat on, took the rifle, and stepped into the rain. The sky was black as pitch, the wind carrying the scent of lightning and dust. She rode hard down the road, the thunder chasing her heartbeat. Far off, gunfire cracked once, then again. She leaned into the storm. Cole found Reed Callahan waiting near the edge of the spur's bluff, rain slicking his coat, a grin carved into his face. "You always had a taste for drama, Maddox." Cole stepped into the open, revolver steady. "You brought this storm, Reed. Let's see if you can stand in it." Reed laughed. "Sheriff's on his way. I could wait and let him do it proper, or I could take my reward now." "You talk too much," Cole said. Lightning split the sky. Both men fired. The sound rolled like the world breaking in half. Reed's shot grazed Cole's shoulder. Cole's hit home, clean through the chest. Reed stumbled back, surprise flickering across his face before the rain swallowed him. He fell without ceremony. The storm went on like it didn't notice. Cole stood a moment, breathing hard, blood and rain running together down his arm. He holstered the gun and looked toward the horizon. Somewhere beyond it, he knew, the law would keep coming. It always did. Then he heard the hooves, fast, light, familiar. Lark reined in beside him, breathless. "You fool," she said, sliding from the saddle. "You could have died." He looked at her through the rain, a ghost of a smile on his lips. "So could you." She pressed a hand to his arm, feeling the warmth of blood under the fabric. "You're hurt. Just enough to remind me I'm still here." Her eyes flicked to Reed's body. "It's over." "For him," Cole said. "Not for us." Lightning flashed again, turning their faces pale in the storm. She searched his expression. "You're going to run again, aren't you?" He didn't answer right away. The silence between them was thick, full of everything they hadn't said. "I've been running my whole life, Lark," he said at last. "But maybe it's time I start riding toward something instead." She blinked rain from her lashes. "And what's that?" "You." The word came out rough, almost a confession dragged from his bones. Her throat closed. "You don't get to say that and leave me here." "Then come," he said simply. "No promises, no peace, just the road." She stared at him for a long moment, the storm moving around them like breath. Then she nodded once, fierce and certain. "I was never made for peace anyway." He laughed, soft, surprised, the sound lost in the wind. He reached up, touched her cheek. The contact was gentle, grounding, a promise made without words. Together they turned back toward the waiting horses. The sky cracked open behind them, rain falling harder, washing the blood into the dirt. They rode into it, two shadows swallowed by the storm, chasing a dawn that hadn't yet learned their names. If this story has found a pulse inside your chest, stay close. The horizon holds one last truth, and their hearts have one more promise to keep. Morning broke like a bruise across the sky, violet, soft gold, and the lingering ache of thunder. The rain had stopped some time before dawn. Steam lifted off the plain, curling around the horses as they slowed by the river. Cole dismounted first, his movements careful. His shoulder was wrapped in a strip of Lark's torn shawl. Blood had dried dark at the edge, but his eyes were steady. "You need rest," she said quietly. He smiled a little. Rest is a fine word for folks who've got somewhere safe to wake. She slid down beside him, boots sinking into wet earth. "Maybe that's what we start building." He looked at her, one brow raised. "You and me, building peace in the middle of a war." "Somebody has to," she said. "Might as well be the two fools who don't know when to quit." That drew a low laugh from him, the sound rough as gravel and twice as warm. The horses drank nearby, the only witnesses to the silence that settled between them. After a while, Lark spoke again. "You ever think about what comes next, Cole?" "Sometimes." "And?" He looked out over the river. "I see land that still remembers mercy. A patch of ground where no one asks who we used to be." Her hand found his. "Then maybe that's where we ride." He squeezed gently, his thumb tracing a circle over her palm. "You sure, Lark? There's no road back from this." She met his gaze. "I stopped looking back the night I met you." The quiet after that was full of things better left unsaid. The wind carried the smell of wet sage and morning smoke. Somewhere a hawk cried, sharp, free, certain. Cole turned toward her, voice softer now. "You changed something in me. You make it sound like I fixed you." He shook his head. "Not fixed. Just reminded me what it feels like to still have a pulse that means something." She leaned her head against his shoulder, the fabric still damp with rain. "Maybe that's all any of us get, to find one heartbeat that still wants to meet the dawn." For a while they sat that way, two worn souls beneath a pale new sky. The land stretched open before them, wide, unforgiving, endless. But it no longer felt empty. It felt like possibility. Cole stood, offering her his hand. "Come on, Bennett. Time to move before the world remembers our names." She took it, smiling through the ache. "Then let's give it something worth remembering." They mounted up, the horses turning toward the west, where sunlight touched the rim of the desert. Their shadows stretched long behind them, two shapes riding into a day no one had claimed yet. The wind picked up again, brushing through her hair like a blessing. She looked back once, at the trail they'd burned through fear, at the ghosts they'd left behind, then forward again, where the road disappeared into light. Cole reached for her hand as they rode. She let him. Neither spoke. There was no need. They were still outlaws, still hunted, still half-broken. But for the first time, the world didn't feel cruel. It felt alive. And somehow, so were they. And when the river's glimmer faded behind them, Lark whispered, half to him, half to the wind. No one steals peace. You just ride far enough to find it. Cole smiled. Then let's keep riding. The wind carried their laughter across the plain, two voices dissolving into the horizon where dust and hope met the light. If this story has touched a tender place in your heart, let your light stay with us. Comment, share and subscribe so this western fire keeps burning for you.